Hello everybody and welcome back to more patch 2.0 content on the PTS for Star Wars. We are in Scum and Villainy right now. This is all pre-recorded. I did this much earlier, and for the most part this is actually an entire group that I know nobody of. Actually, I'll be honest, I don't know anybody in here. We just got together, total pug group, decided, hey, let's go into Scum and Villainy story mode and try to figure this out. So this is the first boss you're seeing here. What happens is you saw me kind of riding up on this area that we're at now as the video started. What happens is you come into the instance, there is just like this oasis kind of thing going on with this windstorm. It is an exhaustion zone that you're in, right? So you have to run over to where all these guys are standing, my group is standing, and there's a little shield that you activate. And you can see this shield around me. And that keeps the exhaustion zone buff or debuff from ticking up on you, right? And we'll go into more of the mechanics of the fight in a second. You can see he's knocking me around, which is really annoying. We'll talk about all of that. But none of this should be taken as a guide. We just got to make that very clear, right? None of this should be taken as a guide because this is just 8 people coming in here trying to figure out the fight. I will make a proper guide when the raid is actually released and in its final state, because most of this is subject to change anyways. Especially because some of these fights are not necessarily broken, but incredibly easy and probably not their final tuning anyway, so may as well make a guide when it's actually out rather than now when we're trying to figure it out. So as you saw there, he was knocking me back. You saw that this shield has gotten progressively smaller. When you're outside of the shield, you take the exhaustion zone damage, so it puts a buff or a debuff on you that constantly does more and more damage, stacks up to 10 times. Really annoying, especially if your tanking is knocking you out. We didn't figure out until later that the knockback was actually a AoE cone, right? Anybody in front of him is going to get knocked back. He also lays these circles on the ground, which are really annoying. You don't want to go into them. They do damage and they slow you. There is another mechanic where he will randomly teleport players to different parts of the oasis, and while you're, in these different parts, you will get these womp rats on you, right? So the womp rats are pretty easy to take care of. They're not hard enemies at all. The problem is if you're like a healer, you're going to have a hard time doing it, right? So you'll also be stacking up the exhaustion zone debuff because you're not in the shield anymore. So at the beginning of the instance, as soon as you walk in, because there is no trash between this guy and the instance entrance, you go in and you... or I guess I should call it an operation instance. You know what, it's old habits die hard. So you go in and there is a trade guy right there, and it's hard to see him because his nameplate doesn't show up, so you actually have to like go and click on him and be like, oh hey guy, what's up? And on him he sells this like buff. It's a minute-long buff. I don't remember what the cooldown is on it, but if you get teleported, you use that thing, and it keeps you from taking the elemental damage for a minute. So it is very useful, because then you can work your way back to the group, bring the ads with you, the group can AoE him down if you're not able to do it on your own. Like if you're not a power tech, for instance, which are just uber AoE powerhouses now, which I really love, because that's what I like to do, set everything on fire. Now you see us trying to put our backs to the little like shield emitter thing there. It doesn't really work as well as you might imagine because it is kind of short and he knocks you up and back, not just back. So you can kind of take care of it by, I would suggest tank swapping. That would probably be my final strategy because he knocks you back, that tank's getting exhaustion zone debuff, and then the other tank, kind of like a 10 and 2 status, you tank him 10 and 2, so one gets knocked back, the other one's still in the shield, he taunts, then the other tank either jumps back in with many different abilities that were added in this latest patch. You can either charge in like usual, or if you're an assassin, you can, or assassin in shadow, you can just teleport in because they have like a Warlock-esque ability from Warcraft, which is really sweet. You'll see all of that in the class guides coming up here soon if you haven't seen that already. Now, you also have to move from shield emitter to shield emitter as you go throughout this area, and you're pretty much just going north throughout the area. It's very easy to see where the new shield emitters are. You just kind of look north. The reason you do this is because the shields get progressively smaller. As they get progressively smaller, obviously you run out of space. You could probably, now that I'm looking at it, this is footage I'm reviewing for the first time after we've done it, you could probably tank him on the edge, like right where he's at now, and you would get knocked back still within inside of the the large shield here once it's this big, so that's something to consider as well. But you see that we kill him, achievement pops up because of the new achievement system, which is awesome, and then he drops just basic loot. This loot is actually worse than what we were given on the PTS. So I hope that kind of gives you an idea of what that boss is like. Once you kill him, the exhaustion zone wears off, and you can just move on and kill the trash up to the next boss. He's not entirely difficult, but this is story mode though. This was our second attempt. The first attempt, we had no idea what was going on, and we just, it was bad. It was really bad. And once you get past this guy, the bosses are, at least there's a few really interesting bosses in here. For the most part, Scum and Villainy as a whole is very good, and I'm very impressed with it thus far. But he is very easy. Once again, this is story mode. I'll bring you hard mode content when I get around to it, and I will also do the guides when I get around to those. But on that note, if you want to see more of these, obviously subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook. All of that is in the description below this video. The reason you do that is because we're going to be pumping out these videos a lot, so if you want to keep up with everything, that would be the best way to do it and to be able to follow all of the different things on the channel. But on that note, I'm going to go do another one of these, and we'll see you guys next time.